Hello and welcome to the Genja tutorials. Today I'm going to take you through installing Robot Framework and writing a very simple test. Robot Framework is a key-driven generic test automation framework aimed at acceptance testing. It can do acceptance test-driven development, behavioral test-driven development. I suppose you can mold it to what you kind of want it to do. But in this instance, I'm just going to show you how to install it, run a basic test. So first of all, it's written in Python. So basically it's installed using the pip package, and I'm going to start a virtual environment to install this in under. So and the directory, or I'm going to call, So now that's created. I'll see the inter-robot test. I will start up the virtual environment, source, bin, activate. And what we will want to do, so we can see that's active now, robot tests. So we're in this virtual environment. These are just files so that it runs. Basically allows you to kind of, in a virtual environment, your packages will stay within, it's separated from the higher level, the wider system, I should say. So let me just clear this. So basically, to install Robot Framework, it's just pip3 install Robot Framework without that hyphen. And there we go. So that's installed the framework. We can verify by just checking the version. So this is the version that was just installed, Robot Framework 5.0. So let's just clear that. So there are a number of ways, I didn't clear that. So there are a number of ways of creating tests. The structure, or if you're creating a file, so I'm just going to call it, so the file we're going to create in this instance is going to be called remote file test.robot. So the extension's .robot. There's a few other extensions, but basically it's a way of understanding, okay, this is a robot file. It's best practice to use that for your test case files. So I'm just going to create, so we're in the folder now, so I'm just going to create remote file test dot robot is the extension. So in the file, there's some sections that you have. First of all, generally you will have your settings. So that's kind of like the overall settings for the test suite. You will specify, say, resources, which may be keywords from another file, or this will begin to kind of make sense. Any imports that you wish to kind of initiate, import, a bit like Python. So it's based on Python. So you're actually importing a file, function, class, so be it. So basically, there are a number of ways. So it's not really case sensitive, but this is the general layout. So you'll have your settings. And then you may have your documentation. So spacing here now. So it's the way it's separated is based on spacing. So minimum 2 spaces. So 1, 2, and then this third one. So that'll separate it. So I don't know, we'll call it, say this is a test. So that's the documentation for it. And this will show up in the test. So the name of the test, when you're running it, you'll see, oh, okay, it's saying this is a test. In the documentation, it just adds more. You can add more detail as you want. Imports, library, basically 2 spaces again. So as you can see now, so I've done 2, minimum 2. It's beginning to kind of be the actual recommend. So minimum 2. Actually, I've done 3. 1, 2. Anyway, so minimum is 2, but it's actually recommended to do 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So say you wanted to import a library, you would call. So they have some built-in libraries, such as operating systems. So those will kind of be your basic operational calls. Operating system calls like your basic bash commands, make directory and so forth like that. We'll have keywords. So there's another word there, keywords. So it's keyword driven. So they, on the low level, they're kind of just functions where it will carry out the commands for you in the back end. Another built-in library is datetime. But if you want to use an external library like SSH library, database library, you have to install those. So the same way I installed the robot framework, I would have to install, in this instance, where the file, so we're actually going to create a test to check for a remote file, whether it exists or not. So we're going to be using the SSH library. So this is based on an example for checking if a remote file exists. So that's just some documentation. It's telling you what it's doing overall. So again, we'll import a library, but it's minimum. It can be any number of spaces. But as you can see, it can get a bit messy. So like say I wanted to import the library. That's how you would import the library. And then you move on to your next section. So I don't have any more there. It will be variables. But if so here, as it starts to grow, it's a bit hard to tell depending on your spacing. Okay, what's the keyword? Keywords can take arguments. So it's pretty much like calling a function in Python here and passing it some arguments is basically what it is. You can create variables just like in Python, but one downside to having space separated is because it's based on spaces. If you have, say, a tab or you have a number of spaces in one of your commands or strings, it needs to be escaped. What I prefer to do is there is a piped, you can use pipe separate formatting. So based on pipe. So this is one section. It's important to have a space after the pipe. The pipe, so I could have a pipe here and then that's another section, but it's nice and tight to kind of try and have them lined up so that it's easy. It's easier on the eye. As you can see already, now it's like, okay, it's got more style into it. It's easier to read. It's not jumbled up, because as we start going down the page, you'll be like, okay, what's going on? Trying to understand what splits up, where's the keywords, where's the arguments, is this all one command? So let's just save this, because what we need to do is install the SSH library. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm just going to save this. We'll come back in a second. So again, pip3, install. So it's Robot Framework again, actually. And it's just -SSH library. So it has a number of dependencies. It tried to run a setup here, but then, I mean, it successfully installs, it just failed trying to build it this way. But then it went on to try another way. So it failed to build there, and then it ended up installing. If you're unsure, you can always do pip3, not pip23, show robot framework switch. Okay, there's no work complete. Library. Wow. Didn't even finish the word. So there we go. We know it's installed. So I'll just clear this. So now we can open back up the file. Vim remote file test.robot. So now we've installed that in our virtual environment. So again, so there's a space between sections, space after that. So I'm going to create a couple variables. One's going to be a host name. So with variables, basically global variables, so that can pretty much be called from anywhere. Well, when I say anywhere, created in the variable section, you can use it anywhere within the test case file. So it's known as a global variable, whereas a local one may be returned data. So you may run a keyword which returns data. So just like thinking if you're running a Python command and you do a return, so equal, or you've given it a variable, so it's expecting some data. It runs a function and it returns data. So that's returned data. Those are known as local. So global best practice is to create your variables in caps. So the host is basically going to be the IP address of my remote device, which is going to be my Raspberry Pi. So I'm already logged into that. I can't remember the IF. I can't remember the IP address 15. So my host is going to be this. 192.168.15, and then I want the username. I am going to say username. And the username is going to be pi, lowercase pi, or IP pi. And basically, so the aim of this is checking if a remote file exists. So I'm going to give it a path. So on my Pi, there's going to be a folder which should have a file. So path and it's going to be, so this is where I start mixing up the so it's home, so I'm giving it the absolute path, and then I'm going to actually call the variable username, and then it's robot. So we're going to create, I've already created a folder called robot, and then it's looking for a text file called robot.txt. So yeah, we created the variable and we can use it in a variable as well. Right. So those are our variables. There's many of our other sections. So the next section is going to be the keyword. So it's keyword driven. So the keywords section. So you have your kind of default. So SSH library has its own keywords, like default keywords. But to log in, you have to open a connection. Then you have to log in. So you can create what's known as user keywords. So should have done that. Just give it a bit more space. That there should do. So basically, I'm creating my own keyword, which is creating a higher level to have a low level keyword. So as I said, if you've got multiple keywords that you want to group into one function, you create your own user keyword. So in this instance, I'm going to say open connection and log in. All of this is not case sensitive, but it's just nice to actually understand. So as I said, the first keyword is open connection. This is part of SSH library, so I'll open the connection. Oh gosh, don't want that. It takes an argument, which is based on the host. So host, oh, I already have caps on. And then within this, so it's still within the open and login. So that's the first part of it. But then, but then now comes in the login part. So we want to log in. Wow, what caps? So that's another keyword. So this is a keyword, this is a keyword on the SSH library. Login takes an argument, which is the username. So I want to log in as the username. And let's just tighten it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be this way, but I just like it to be nice and tidy. And then I want to allow the agent. So what allow agent does is works with the SSH agent. So we're going to use an SSH key in the backend. I've already installed it on my remote device. So I'm allowing the agent to take care of my authentication side, the password. So I'm not specifying a password here. The next argument could be password, but I'm going to use, it's always good to use SSH keys. So if I want to run, so now this will open a connection and log in. I found a typo. I've done it twice. How did I do that? It must have been what complete. Connection. Okay. Should be one word by here. So now that's that section. So the next section, it's almost complete, is to create what's known as a test case. So here, it's going to be test cases. And what you do is you create a name for your each test case. So the first column is, okay, so what do I want to do? I want to connect to device. You can add documentation. It's not piped. So underneath it, you can add some documentation if you want. Just to say SSH to remote device. So this is all under, so the test case is known as connect, or the name of it is connect to device. And now we want to call our keyword, which is open connection and log in. So let me change that up a little bit. Okay. Just tidy that up. So that's going to open the connection and log in. So that's one. That is one keyword called. So it's going to do those two functions and log us in. Next, within the command, or within this test case, well, we'll call it another test case actually. So we're going to call this check for file. Oh. So now this is a keyword within the SSH library itself. Nothing that we've created. It's saying file should exist. Right? And then what file should exist? That's like we want to specify what it should be. The location basically. So we're going to call our variable path. If I get it right. So now it's going to check the path we specified here earlier. It's going to check that to see if the file exists within the path for this file here, robot.txt. So now we actually, it should have been on another line. So let's just I mean, I'm just trying to make it look neat, so it's easier to read and just highlight the differences between having a piped version compared to the space separated. So again, you could have a space here, another line, say, just to tidy it up. So you can see test cases, 1, 2, there's some documentation, which I'll highlight when we do this. So that's it, we've written a test case. So let me just save this. Not caps. Okay, so we're good. Let me just clear this down. So like I had in the test file, I said that there's going to be, I've already created a folder called robot here. There's nothing in it. So if you do, it's empty, no, 0 files. The test is going to check if there is a file there. So it should exist, remember? So you run that, it should exist, it should pass. So let's give that a run now. So to run a test, clear. To run a test is robot, name of the test. That's the basic. So it's failed in the first one. So let's just make sense of this. So basically it failed here, right? If you see this message, because I'm dependent on the SSH keys, it says no authentication methods available. I didn't provide a password. It's tried, so it was just going to hang and not complete the next step. Remote file test is the name of the file. This is the documentation I created at the very beginning. Example for checking if a file exists, a remote file exists. These are the names of the tests right here. Check the file. Connect to the device. I specified a little bit of documentation, if you remember, but none for the check for file. So what do I need to do? I need to load my SSH keys. So again, if I have a blog, video and blog on SSH keys. I'll put a link in, basically in creating them, using them. So SSH agent. Wait. SSH agent --s. Forgetting. Oh no, that's why I was getting confused. So that, and then I'll load my key. SSH ID play. So now if I run the test again, you can see it's hanging. It's now passed on the SSH connection, but failed because the file doesn't exist. So this is kind of, again, the acceptance test-driven development. So basically, you write your tests, they should fail, and now you write whether it's programs to kind of make it pass. You want to make it pass. So basically, here, what I need to do is, it's looking for this file. So I need to create that file. So clear this down. Oh, first of all, actually, we can check the logs. So basically there's log files they output. The output, log and report. I've got a little script to kind of just copy them over because I'm on a remote connection. I don't have a web browser to view them. You can view the text, the raw text if you want, but it doesn't really make any sense. So I just need to copy this over. So I'm just going to quickly run this so that I can get on my local machine. So now I go into here. So basically report. It failed. So red background shows all tests. So it's just very high level. It says, okay, this is it. High level information. If I go back, there is actually, it links it to the log HTML file. So that will provide more information. So it's, as again, the two tests, very basic information. The log, you want detail. Now you can drill down. It gives the output, the detail if you want to do further, login info, info for login, those of you that are aware of syslog, connect to device pass, so just a basic detail. So let's minimize that. Oh, that's why I couldn't see it. It was hidden. So, and then you have one more file. I'll just quickly show you that. Should open it in text. Oh no. So this is basically the output in XML. Hard to read, but we this is what you see in the log file as well, basically. So I'll close that. So now we want it to work. So I'm just going to clear this screen. So now we need to get it to work. So we want to touch the file just to create a file. That's all it's looking for, is a file, robot.txt. Now it exists. So let's go back here. Run the test again. Remote. Green lights. So our acceptance testing is passed. It checked our file, it passed. Let's check the log. So I'm just going to copy that back over. Copy logs. So now log. So if I do log again, it's green or green. And if I do the report, should get a green background. So you see, if it fails, it's red. If it passes, you get green, and it shows all that information. Pass, pass. So all good, the file exists. So that's welcome to the world of testing. Good for when you're doing, obviously if you're making change and you're expecting, again, acceptance, test-driven development. If you're expecting it to be a particular way and you've written a program and you're not getting that data and you need to test it, you write a test for it to test that the functionality, what you're expecting, is the result, and you can run the test without having to manually go in and check, and you can build on that. There's loads of different ways of testing, but this is the start into basically testing your network automation development or any other development, infrastructure, programming. So yeah, well, next up I will talk about creating a custom test library. You can create your own custom test libraries. So thanks for listening. Until next time.